The airport terminal hummed with the kind of exhausted energy that only exists at 3 a.m. Fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, the acrid smell of burnt coffee mixing with industrial cleaner, and the rhythmic squeak of my worn sneakers against linoleum that had seen better decades. My feet ached in a way that went beyond physical pain, settling somewhere deep in my bones where exhaustion lived permanently. 12 hours into my shift, 4 more to go. I pushed the cleaning cart past gate 47, barely registering the scattered passengers slumped in their chairs like abandoned puppets. A baby cried somewhere in the distance. Someone's phone alarm wouldn't stop beeping. The world felt muffled, distant, like I was watching it through dirty glass. "Excuse me?" A voice cut through my fog, low, smooth, with an accent that wrapped around the English words like expensive silk. I seemed to have dropped something. I turned, already forming my customer service smile, the one that never quite reached my eyes anymore. Then I saw him. He stood near the window, backlit by the tarmac lights, and for a moment, my brain simply refused to process what I was seeing. Tall, easily over 6 feet, with dark hair that looked artfully disheveled in a way that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Sharp cheekbones cast shadows across his face, and his eyes. God, his eyes were the color of whiskey held up to firelight, assessing me with an intensity that made my breath catch. He wore what looked like a casual outfit. Dark jeans, a fitted black Henley. But there was nothing casual about the way the fabric draped over what was clearly an athletic build, or the way his leather jacket probably cost more than my car, if my car actually ran. What did you drop? My voice came out smaller than intended. His lips curved into something that might have been a smile if it had reached those unsettling eyes. My pen. It rolled under your cart, I think. I blinked, looking down at the industrial cleaning cart that held nothing but dirty rags, spray bottles, and the crushed dreams of every night shift worker. Sure enough, wedged against the wheel was a pen, but not just any pen. Even in the harsh terminal lighting, I could see it was the kind of writing instrument that belonged in a museum, all gleaming metal and what looked like actual diamonds. Oh. I crouched down, my joints protesting, fingers reaching for the pen. The metal was cold, heavy, obscenely expensive against my calloused palm. As I straightened, I caught a whiff of his cologne, something dark and woody with notes of bergamot and danger. If danger had a smell, it probably did, and it probably smelled exactly like this. Thank you. His hand extended, and I noticed things I shouldn't have noticed. No wedding ring, expensive watch, the kind with complications I couldn't name. A thin white scar running along his knuckles. Hands that had never pushed a mop or scrubbed a toilet. I placed the pen in his palm, careful not to touch his skin, but his fingers closed around mine anyway. The contact sent electricity up my arm, and I jerked back instinctively. You work hard. It wasn't a question. His eyes traveled over my faded uniform, lingering on the name tag that read, Emma, happy to help, in cheerful letters that mocked my exhaustion. How long is your shift? I should get back to work. Professional. Keep it professional. Don't think about how his voice makes your spine tingle. Don't notice how he's looking at you like you're something rare and interesting instead of invisible. Of course. He stepped back, but something in his posture suggested he wasn't used to people walking away from him. I'm waiting for a delayed flight, gate 52. Perhaps I'll see you again before I board. It should have sounded like a casual comment. It didn't. It sounded like a promise, or maybe a warning. I nodded, grabbing my cart and pushing it away with more force than necessary. My heart hammered against my ribs like it was trying to escape. Stupid. Getting flustered over some rich traveler who probably flirted with every cleaning lady he encountered, making them feel special for 30 seconds before forgetting they existed. But I could feel his eyes on me as I walked away, could feel them like a physical touch burning between my shoulder blades. The next hour passed in a blur of trash bins and bathroom checks. I tried to focus on the familiar rhythm of work, the mindless tasks that usually helped me forget about my studio apartment with the leaking ceiling, the medical bills from my father's final hospital stay still sitting unpaid on my kitchen counter, the community college classes I'd had to drop, because I couldn't afford books and rent in the same month. I tried. I failed. Because every time I turned a corner, I caught glimpses of him. Sitting at gate 52, laptop open, but his attention never quite on the screen. Always watching. Always aware. And he wasn't alone. I noticed that now. 2 men in dark suits flanked him at a distance, pretending to read newspapers, but their eyes constantly scanned the terminal. Security? Bodyguards? Who travels with bodyguards at 3 a.m? Emma, you got Section C tonight? Marge's gravelly voice startled me. My supervisor looked like she'd been born tired, cigarette smoke permanently embedded in her gray hair. Yeah, finishing up now. Good. Some VIP requested the executive lounge be deep cleaned. Boss wants you on it. My stomach sank. The executive lounge meant dealing with rich passengers who looked through you like you were made of glass. Can't someone else? You're my best cleaner. Stop arguing and get your ass up to the 3rd floor. The executive lounge was everything the main terminal wasn't. Soft lighting, leather chairs that probably cost more than I made in a year, and the kind of hush that only money could buy. Classical music played softly from hidden speakers. The air smelled like expensive coffee and privilege. It was empty except for one person. Him. He sat in a corner chair, one leg crossed over the other, that whiskey gaze finding me immediately. A slow smile spread across his face. The kind of smile that made my survival instincts scream warnings my body chose to ignore. We meet again. His voice carried across the empty space like a caress. My fingers tightened on the cleaning supplies. I'm here to clean. The staff said there was a request. There was. He stood, moving with a grace that seemed almost predatory, each step deliberate, measured. I made it. The air left my lungs. What? I wanted to see you again, without interruptions. He gestured to the space around us, empty, private, isolated, without eyes watching. Except his eyes were watching, devouring more like, taking in every detail of my cheap uniform, my tired face, my confusion. I don't understand. You can't just... People don't request private cleaning sessions. My voice wavered between professional protocol and pure panic. People don't. He stepped closer, and I caught that scent again. Bergamot, cedar, and something darker I couldn't name. Power, maybe. Possession. I do. I should go. My feet wouldn't move. Traitor feet. You're afraid. Not a question. An observation, delivered with something that might have been satisfaction. I'm working. There's a difference. Is there? Another step. We were close enough now that I could see flecks of gold in his eyes, could count his eyelashes if I were stupid enough to keep staring. Tell me, Emma. Happy to help. When was the last time someone saw you? Really saw you? The question hit like a physical blow. My throat tightened. You don't know anything about me. I know you work night shifts because they pay better and you need every dollar. I know you're educated. Your vocabulary is too refined for someone who only finished high school. I know you're alone because there's no ring on your finger and no one waiting in your phone. You've checked it 7 times in the past hour and never smiled once. His hand reached up, and I should have moved, should have run. But I was frozen as his fingers barely brushed my cheek, catching a strand of hair that had escaped my ponytail. I know you're exhausted in a way that sleep won't fix, and I know that you're far too beautiful to be invisible. My breath came in short gasps. This is inappropriate. I need to... What's your full name? What? Your full name. The badge only says Emma. Emma. Emma Hartley. Why was I answering? Why wasn't I running? Emma Hartley. He repeated it like he was tasting wine, rolling each syllable around before swallowing it. Beautiful. It suits you. And yours? The question escaped before I could stop it. Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, or amusement. Dante. Dante Caruso. The name landed between us like a stone dropping into still water, sending ripples I couldn't quite interpret. Italian. Sophisticated. Dangerous. Well, Mr. Caruso, I really do need to clean Dante. His voice dropped lower, intimate. Just Dante. And you don't need to clean anything, I told you. I requested this because I wanted to talk to you. Why? The word burst out, sharp with confusion and something else. Fear? Excitement? The line between them blurred. Why would you want to talk to me? I'm nobody. I'm just the cleaning lady you'll forget about by morning. His expression darkened, those whiskey eyes turning almost black. You're not nobody. Don't ever say that again. The command in his voice made me take a step back, my hip hitting the cleaning cart. Bottles rattled. My hands shook. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to... To what? Offend him? This was insane. This whole situation was insane. Emma. He moved closer again, eliminating the distance I'd created. I'm going to be very honest with you. From the moment I saw you in that terminal, pushing that cart like the weight of the world was on your shoulders, I couldn't look away. Do you know how rare that is? How rarely someone captures my attention so completely? I shook my head mutely. Very rare. His hand came up again, this time cupping my jaw with a gentleness that contradicted everything about his intensity. His thumb brushed across my cheekbone, and I couldn't stop the small gasp that escaped. I want to know you. I want to understand what haunts those beautiful eyes. I want... His phone buzzed. Then again. The spell shattered. Dante's jaw clenched as he pulled out his phone, glancing at the screen. His expression shifted, still intense, but now laced with something harder, colder. He typed a quick response, and I noticed his security detail had appeared at the lounge entrance, their expressions urgent. I have to go. The words came out clipped, reluctant. My flight is ready. Relief and disappointment warred in my chest. Of course. Safe travels. He pocketed his phone but didn't move toward the door. Instead, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. Black, expensive cardstock with silver lettering. My number. Private line. I stared at the card like it might bite. I can't... Yes, you can. He pressed it into my palm, his fingers wrapping around mine, warm and impossibly gentle for someone who radiated such controlled violence. Call me. Tomorrow. Day after. Whenever you're ready to stop being invisible. I don't even know you. Then get to know me. His smile returned, but there was something predatory in it now. Something that made my pulse spike. I promise you, Emma Hartley, I'm worth knowing. Before I could protest, before I could think, he leaned down. His lips brushed my forehead. Barely a touch, gossamer light, but it burned like a brand, like a claim. Then he was walking away, his security falling into formation around him, and I was left standing in the empty executive lounge, a black business card clutched in my trembling hand, and the ghost of his touch still tingling against my skin. I looked down at the card. Dante Caruso. No title. No company. Just a phone number embossed in silver. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a text from an unknown number. You're testing me by not having saved my number already. I look forward to hearing your voice, Emma. Soon. How did he get my number? My hands shook harder as reality crashed back. The fluorescent lights, the classical music, the scent of his cologne still lingering in the air like smoke. I was just a cleaning lady. He was... What? Who traveled with armed security and requested private meetings in executive lounges at 4 a.m. I should throw away the card, block the number. Forget this ever happened. Instead, I slipped the card into my pocket, feeling its weight like a dangerous secret. Outside the lounge windows, I watched a private jet taxi toward the runway. Sleek, black, expensive. As it turned, I caught a glimpse of someone standing at one of the windows. Even from this distance, even through tinted glass, I felt those whiskey eyes watching me. The plane disappeared into the darkness, and I was left alone with a business card, a phone number, and the terrifying certainty that my invisible life had just become devastatingly, dangerously visible. I didn't call. For 3 days, that black business card sat on my kitchen counter like a coiled snake, beautiful and venomous. I'd circle it while making my instant coffee, stare at it while eating cereal straight from the box, feel its presence like a pulse in the cramped studio apartment that smelled perpetually of mildew and failure. You're testing me. His words echoed through my exhausted brain during every shift. I'd scrub toilets and remember the way his thumb had brushed my cheekbone. empty trash bins and recall that gossamer touch on my forehead. Mop floors and feel those whiskey eyes burning into me from across impossible distances. "You look like shit," Marge observed on the fourth night, her cigarette-roughened voice cutting through my fog. "More than usual, I mean. Thanks for the pep talk. I'm serious, Emma. You getting sick? Can't afford to lose you during holiday travel season." Holiday season. Right. Christmas decorations had started appearing in the terminal, plastic garland and artificial cheer that made the fluorescent wasteland somehow more depressing. Families traveling to see loved ones, couples going on romantic getaways. And me, invisible Emma Hartley, pushing her cart through other people's joy. I'm fine. I wasn't fine. My phone buzzed constantly with texts from that unknown number. Never demanding, never crude, just persistent. "Good morning, Emma. I hope you slept better than I did. Thinking about you is becoming a dangerous distraction. 3 days. You're stronger than I anticipated. Or more stubborn. I'm not used to waiting. It's making me realize how much I want to hear your voice. I should have blocked the number, changed my own, filed some kind of complaint, though I wasn't even sure what the complaint would be. Rich stranger is interested in me?" But I didn't block him. I read every message, sometimes twice, sometimes until my eyes burned and my chest ached with something I refused to name. The fourth night bled into the fifth morning. My shift ended at 7, and I stepped out into cold December air that bit through my thin jacket. The bus stop was 3 blocks away. My feet already hurt. My soul hurt worse. Emma Hartley. My name, spoken in that accent that turned syllables into silk. I spun around so fast I nearly dropped my bag. A black SUV idled at the curb, the kind with tinted windows and chrome that probably cost more than most people's houses. The back door opened, and Dante stepped out, looking like sin wrapped in a charcoal suit that fit him like a prayer. His hair was slightly damp, as if he'd just showered. His eyes found mine with the precision of a heat-seeking missile. "What are you doing here?" My voice came out strangled. "You wouldn't call." He said it simply, like his presence was the natural consequence of my silence. "So I came to you. You can't just... This is stalking. This is me making sure you're safe." He gestured to the SUV. "You were going to take the bus, alone, in the dark, through a neighborhood with a crime rate I researched extensively." "You researched?" Anger flared, hot and clarifying. "You have no right. I have every right to worry about someone I care about. You don't know me well enough to care about me. Then let me fix that." He stepped closer, and God help me I didn't back away. "Have breakfast with me. 1 hour, just talk. If after that you want me to disappear, I will." "You'll disappear?" Skepticism dripped from every word. "Just like that?" Something flickered across his face. Pain, maybe. Or recognition of a lie he wanted to tell but couldn't. "I'll try." The honesty of it disarmed me more than any smooth promise would have. "I look terrible. I smell like industrial cleaner. I haven't slept properly and you look beautiful." He said it with such conviction that I almost believed him. "And I don't care about anything except hearing what you have to say without fluorescent lights humming overhead." A man in a dark suit stood by the SUV's driver door, watching us with the blank expression of professional security. Another man sat in the front passenger seat, his attention on the street rather than us. "Who are you?" The question finally emerged, heavy with all the fear I'd been suppressing. "Really?" Dante's jaw tightened. "Have breakfast with me, and I'll answer every question you have. Honestly, completely. Why should I trust you? You shouldn't." His brutal honesty caught me off guard again. "But you're going to anyway. Want to know how I know?" I couldn't speak, could barely breathe, because you feel it too. This pull, this inevitability. His hand reached out slowly, telegraphing every movement, giving me time to retreat. When I didn't, his fingers brushed mine. Barely contact. Everything contact. You've felt invisible for so long that now someone sees you, really sees you. And it terrifies you because terror is easier than hope. Tears burned behind my eyes. "That's not fair." "No," he agreed softly. "Nothing about this is fair. But it's real, Emma. This connection is real. and you can walk away. Take your bus. Forget I exist. Or you can take 1 hour to see if I'm worth the risk. The pre-dawn air crystallized between us, sharp with cold and possibility. Behind him, the city woke slowly. Garbage trucks rumbling, early commuters shuffling past. The world continuing like my entire life wasn't balanced on the edge of a knife. 1 hour, I heard myself say. And you answer everything. His smile could have melted steel. 1 hour. Everything. The SUV's interior smelled like leather and luxury. I slid across seats that probably cost more than my yearly salary, hyper-aware of my cheap uniform against such opulence. Dante settled beside me, close but not crowding, though I felt every inch of space between us like static electricity. The driver pulled smoothly into traffic. No one spoke. The silence felt heavy with unspoken things, with promises and threats tangled together like barbed wire wrapped in silk. We drove through the city as it transformed from night to day, leaving behind the airport's industrial sprawl for neighborhoods that grew progressively more expensive. Brownstones became mansions. Chain-link fences became wrought iron. The people on the streets wore coats that actually kept them warm. Where are we going? My voice sounded small in the SUV's hushed interior. Somewhere private. Dante's eyes remained fixed on me, as if memorizing every detail. Somewhere we can talk without interruption. Alarm bells rang. I thought you meant a restaurant, a public... Emma. He shifted slightly, and suddenly his hand covered mine on the seat between us. Warm, solid, grounding. I meant what I said. 1 hour. Questions and answers. But I can't give you honest answers in a place where anyone might overhear. My life is complicated. Dangerous, even. If you're going to know who I am, it needs to be somewhere secure. That doesn't exactly make me feel safer. I know. His thumb traced circles on my knuckles, and I hated how my body responded, pulse quickening, breath shortening. But safe and comfortable aren't always the same thing. I'm offering you truth. Truth is rarely comfortable. The SUV turned through gates that opened automatically, wrought iron topped with decorative spikes that looked less decorative and more defensive. A cobblestone drive curved through manicured gardens still green despite December's chill. And then the house, no, mansion, rose before us like something from a movie. Stone and glass and wealth that screamed old money, the kind that didn't need to announce itself. You live here? I breathed. One of my properties, the most secure. The SUV stopped beneath a covered portico. No one can get in without my permission. No one can hurt you here. Hurt me. Why would I need protection from being hurt? The driver opened my door, his face professionally blank. I stepped out onto cobblestones that probably cost more per square foot than my rent. The early morning air smelled different here, cleaner, perfumed with expensive landscaping rather than exhaust fumes and desperation. Dante's hand found the small of my back, guiding me toward massive double doors that opened before we reached them. A woman in a crisp uniform stood inside. Older, severe, with eyes that assessed me in one sweeping glance and clearly found me wanting. Mr. Caruso, breakfast is prepared in the solarium as requested. Thank you, Teresa. His voice carried authority that made the woman's spine straighten imperceptibly. We're not to be disturbed. Of course, sir. The interior was everything I expected, and nothing I could have imagined. Marble floors reflected morning light streaming through windows 2 stories tall. Art that looked museum quality hung on walls painted in rich, muted tones. A sweeping staircase curved upward like something from a fairy tale. But this felt more like the Beast's castle than Cinderella's ball. This way. Dante's hand remained on my back, warm through my thin uniform shirt, as he guided me through hallways that whispered wealth with every step. The solarium was a room made of glass and light, facing a garden where fountains played and winter flowers bloomed in defiance of season. A table was set for 2, actual china, crystal glasses, silver gleaming. Food spread across the surface like a magazine spread, fresh fruit, pastries that smelled like butter in heaven, eggs that weren't from a carton, coffee that actually steamed. My stomach growled audibly. I couldn't remember the last time I'd eaten something that didn't come from a microwave or vending machine. Sit. Eat. Dante pulled out a chair, actual chivalry from someone who looked like he could kill without breaking a sweat. We'll talk while you have breakfast. You're not eating? I ate hours ago. I don't sleep much. He took the chair across from me, close enough to touch if either of us reached across the table. But I'll have coffee with you. I should have felt awkward, eating in my dirty uniform while he watched in his expensive suit. Should have felt self-conscious about the way I attacked the food like a starving animal, but the pastry melted on my tongue, and the fruit tasted like actual fruit instead of something engineered for long shelf life. And the coffee. God, the coffee was revelation. Good? Amusement colored his voice. It's obscene, I admitted around a mouthful of croissant. Everything's obscene. This house. This food. You, his eyebrow lifted. Me? Heat flooded my cheeks. I meant, this whole situation is obscene. I'm a cleaning lady eating breakfast in a mansion with a stranger who... I stopped, setting down my coffee cup with hands that trembled slightly. Who are you, Dante Caruso? Really? The amusement faded from his expression. He leaned back in his chair, coffee cup cradled in his hands, those whiskey eyes holding mine with uncomfortable intensity. I'm the head of a family business. Very old, very established. We deal in imports, exports, logistics, real estate, completely legitimate on paper. He paused, letting the weight of on paper settle between us. But the foundation of my empire, my family's empire, was built on less legal enterprises, protection, gambling, activities that exist in shadows because society is hypocritical about its vices. The air left my lungs. Your Mafia, the word landed like a gunshot in the peaceful solarium. Though we prefer organization or family, Mafia sounds so dramatic. But yes, Emma, I'm what you're thinking, what you're fearing right now. I should have run, should have screamed, should have done anything except sit there, frozen, as reality rearranged itself into something terrifying. You're a criminal. I'm a businessman who operates outside conventional legal boundaries. His voice remained calm, matter of fact. I don't deal drugs. I don't traffic humans. I have lines I won't cross, but yes, by legal definition, I'm a criminal. And you just told me? Just like that? You asked for truth. He set down his coffee cup, leaning forward with sudden intensity. I won't lie to you, Emma. Not now. Not ever. That's a promise I'm making. Right here. Right now. You want to know who I am? I'm dangerous. I'm powerful. I've done things that would make you run screaming. But I'm also the man who saw you in that terminal and felt something I didn't think I was capable of feeling anymore. What? Pity? Recognition. The word hit like a punch. You know what it's like to be invisible, to work yourself to exhaustion for scraps while people with everything walk past without seeing you. I know what it's like to be seen only for what you can do, what you can provide, never for who you are. We're both performing roles, Emma. Yours is just more honest than mine. I pushed back from the table, standing on shaking legs. I need to leave. This is insane. You're insane. I'm terrified. I know. He stood too, moving around the table with that predatory grace. But you're also intrigued, because for the first time in years, someone powerful isn't looking through you. They're looking at you, seeing you, wanting you. You don't want me. You want some fantasy, some project. I want you, Emma Hartley. He was close now. Close enough that I could see the gold flecks in his eyes, could smell that bergamot and cedar cologne that haunted my dreams. 26 years old. Father died 6 months ago from cancer. Dropped out of community college to care for him. Working night shifts because they pay an extra $2 an hour. Lives alone in a studio apartment on Fletcher Street with a leaking ceiling and neighbors who fight at 2 a.m. Allergic to shellfish. Reads thriller novels from the library because you can't afford to buy books. Wanted to be a teacher before life happened. Horror and violation warred in my chest. How do you know all that? I had you investigated. No apology in his voice. The moment you gave me your full name, I needed to know everything. I needed to know if you were dangerous, if you were sent by enemies, if you were real. You investigated me like I'm a criminal? I investigated you like you're someone who matters. His hand reached up, stopping just short of touching my face. And what I found was a woman who deserves so much more than what life has given her. A woman who's strong enough to survive but shouldn't have to merely survive. A woman I want to protect, to spoil, to possess. The word escaped before I could stop it. That's what this is. Not attraction. Possession. His eyes darkened, but he didn't deny it. Perhaps. Is that so terrible? To be possessed by someone who would burn the world to keep you safe? Yes! The word burst out, sharp with panic, and something else. Something that felt dangerously like excitement. That's exactly what's terrible about this. I'm not a thing to be possessed. I'm not some project for you to fix. You're right. His hand dropped. You're not. You're a person who deserves choice. So here's yours. I'll have my driver take you home. You'll never hear from me again. I'll erase my number from your phone. Disappear from your life as completely as I entered it. Or, you stay. You let me show you what your life could be. Not as my possession, as my partner. My equal in ways that matter, even if our worlds are oceans apart. His voice dropped lower, intimate. I'm offering you escape, Emma, not from your problems. I'll solve those regardless of your choice. Your father's medical bills, already paid. Your rent, covered for a year. Your car? Fixed and waiting at your apartment. The world tilted. What? You can't just... I already did. Before I came to the airport this morning. Because whether you choose me or not, I refuse to let you struggle when I have the power to help. Tears burned hot. That's manipulation. You're trying to buy me. I'm trying to take care of you. The words exploded from him with surprising emotion. You've taken care of everyone else your entire life. Your father. Your responsibilities. Your survival. When does Emma get taken care of? When does someone tell Emma that she matters, that she deserves rest, that she shouldn't have to scrub toilets at 3 a.m. just to keep a roof over her head? You don't get to decide that, but my voice cracked on the words. You don't get to swoop in and fix my life like I'm some charity case. You're not charity. You're... He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in every line of his body. You're the first real thing I've felt in a decade. And maybe that's selfish. Maybe I'm trying to possess you because letting you walk away feels like losing something vital. But I'm honest about it, Emma. I'm not pretending to be a good man. I'm offering you a devil's bargain with full disclosure. The solarium felt too small suddenly, the glass walls closing in like a beautiful cage. What happens if I stay? What does that even mean? It means I court you properly, dates, conversations, getting to know each other beyond the circumstances that brought us together. And yes, it means I protect you, because my world is dangerous, and anyone associated with me becomes a target. But it also means you're free. Free from financial worry, free to pursue dreams that got shelved, free to discover who Emma Hartley could be, without survival crushing her spirit. And in exchange, his smile turned predatory. You give me the chance to prove I'm worth the risk. To show you that darkness isn't always evil. Sometimes it's just honest about its nature. My phone buzzed in my pocket, probably Marge wondering why I wasn't answering her texts. The real world, calling me back. Demanding I return to fluorescent lights and aching feet and invisible existence. I looked at Dante Caruso. Mafia boss, dangerous man, someone who shouldn't want me and whom I definitely shouldn't want back. But I saw something in those whiskey eyes that terrified me more than his confession. I saw recognition. I saw hunger. I saw the same desperate loneliness that stared back at me from my bathroom mirror every morning. 1 month, I heard myself say. You get 1 month to prove this isn't insanity. But I keep working. I keep my apartment. I don't become dependent on you until I'm sure. Deal. He crossed the space between us before I could blink, his hands cupping my face with a gentleness that contradicted everything I knew about him. 1 month. But Emma? By the end of it, you're going to beg me to take care of you. That's not arrogance. That's a promise. Then his lips were on mine, possession and question tangled together, demanding and asking simultaneously. His mouth tasted like coffee and danger, and something addictive I couldn't name. My hands found his jacket lapels. Whether to push him away or pull him closer, I couldn't say. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard. You're testing me, he whispered against my lips, echoing his own words from days ago. And I love it. Outside the solarium's glass walls, the sun had fully risen, bathing the garden in golden light that felt like a beginning or an ending or both at once. The first week of my deal with the devil passed in a blur of contradictions that left me spinning. Dante kept his word. I continued working my night shifts, continued living in my apartment with its leaking ceiling, continued my life as if nothing had changed. Except everything had changed. The medical bills that had haunted me for months vanished like smoke. My landlord suddenly became accommodating about repairs. My ancient car not only ran but purred like it had been reborn. And every night, without fail, a black SUV appeared at the end of my shift. "You don't have to do this," I told Dante on the third night, sliding into the leather interior that no longer felt quite so foreign. "I can take the bus." His expression in the dim light was unreadable. "Humor me. The thought of you alone on public transportation at dawn makes me—" He stopped, jaw clenching. "Humor me." So I did. Because arguing with Dante Caruso about my safety was like arguing with a mountain about moving. Immovable. Absolute. Slightly terrifying in its intensity. He took me to breakfast after each shift. Never the mansion again. Instead, small cafes that opened early, places with worn wooden tables and coffee that steamed in chipped mugs. Places that felt real, lived in. Nothing like the opulence of his world. "Tell me about your father," he said one morning, his fingers wrapped around a coffee cup, eyes intent on my face. The question caught me off guard. "Why?" "Because he shaped you. Because understanding him helps me understand you." He leaned back, that predatory grace evident even in stillness. "Because I want to know everything." So I told him. About my father's laugh that could fill a room. About how cancer had hollowed him out slowly, stealing pieces until only pain remained. About sitting by his hospital bed reading thriller novels aloud, because the stories distracted him from dying. He made me promise something, I heard myself say, staring at my own coffee, at the end. He made me promise I'd live, really live, not just survive, that I'd find someone who saw me as precious, not convenient. Smart man. Dante's voice was soft. What would he think of me? I looked up, meeting those whiskey eyes that always saw too much. He'd say you're dangerous, that I should run. And yet you're here. And yet I'm here. I couldn't quite explain why, even to myself. The days blurred together. Work, sleep, stolen hours with Dante where he'd appear without warning, at the library where I returned books, standing in the stacks like he belonged among stories and dust, at the grocery store where I counted pennies, suddenly beside me filling my cart with things I'd never have bought myself. "You're following me," I accused, equal parts annoyed and thrilled. "Protecting you," he corrected, dropping organic vegetables into my cart. "There's a difference." "Is there?" His smile was predatory. Not really. But it sounds better. His honesty was disarming. Most men would have lied, would have pretended their stalking was accidental. Dante owned it, wore it like armor, dared me to object, while his eyes promised he wouldn't stop regardless. "This is insane," I muttered, but I didn't tell him to leave. I couldn't, because beneath the fear, beneath the rational voice screaming warnings, something else was growing, something that felt dangerously like need. On the 8th day, everything shifted. I was leaving work, routine by now, expecting the black SUV, expecting Dante's intense gaze and careful questions, but the vehicle that pulled up was different. White, unfamiliar, the window rolled down, revealing a face I hadn't seen in 3 years. Marcus Chen, my ex-boyfriend, the one who'd left when my father got sick, when life got hard, when I became more burden than pleasure. "Emma." His smile was the same, charming, shallow, worthless. "Long time." Ice flooded my veins. "What are you doing here? Heard you came into some money, medical bills paid, new car." He leaned out the window, that smile widening. "Thought maybe you'd want to catch up. Talk about old times. I have nothing to say to you. Come on, Em. Don't be like that. We were good together. Before everything got complicated." His eyes traveled over my uniform with barely concealed contempt. "You're still cleaning toilets? With all that money someone's spending on you?" Rage, hot and clarifying, burned through the ice. Leave. Now. Or what? You'll call your sugar daddy? He laughed, cruel and knowing. Yeah, I know about him. Whole neighborhood's talking. Emma Hartley's got herself a rich boyfriend. Good for you, playing the poor girl card. Always knew you were smarter than you looked. My hands clenched into fists. You don't know anything about... Is there a problem? Dante's voice cut through the pre-dawn air like a blade. He materialized from the shadows near the terminal entrance, his security detail flanking him. Silent, threatening, utterly focused. His expression was pleasant. His eyes promised murder. Marcus's smile faltered. Who the hell? The man who's been paying Emma's bills. Dante moved with liquid grace, positioning himself between Marcus and me. The man who takes care of what's his. The man who's wondering why you're bothering her when she clearly wants you gone. Look, I don't want trouble. Then leave. The pleasantness evaporated from Dante's voice, leaving only cold command. And if I see you near Emma again, if I hear you've spoken to her, if I catch even a whisper of your name in connection with hers, I'll make sure you regret every choice that led you to this moment. Am I clear? Marcus's face went white. Whatever he saw in Dante's expression made him nod frantically. Crystal. Yeah, clear. The white car peeled away, tires squealing against pavement. Silence settled, heavy and dangerous. Dante turned to me, and the coldness in his eyes transformed into something else, fury mixed with concern, mixed with possession so intense it should have terrified me. Who was he? His voice remained carefully controlled, but I heard the violence underneath. No one. My ex. He left when things got hard, and now he's back because he thinks you have money. Not a question. A statement delivered with absolute certainty. Did he hurt you? When you were together? Not physically, just... He made me feel small, worthless. Like I was lucky he bothered with me at all. Dante's jaw clenched so hard I heard his teeth grind. His name. I need his name. Why? Because I'm going to make sure he never feels entitled to your attention again, fear spiked. Dante, no. You can't what? Protect you? Make sure the people who've hurt you understand that's no longer acceptable? He stepped closer, his hands finding my shoulders, grip firm but somehow gentle. Emma, you're under my protection now. That means anyone who causes you pain answers to me. That's not normal. I'm not normal. His hand slid up to cup my face, forcing me to meet his intense gaze. I told you what I am, what I do. Did you think that was abstract, theoretical? I protect what's mine, Emma, completely, absolutely, without mercy. I'm not yours. But the words came out weak, unconvincing even to my own ears. Aren't you? His thumb brushed across my lower lip, and I couldn't stop the shiver. You've had breakfast with me every morning for 8 days. You let me drive you home. You let me into your life. You're testing boundaries, seeing how far I'll go, what I'll tolerate. Let me answer that. I'll go to the ends of the earth for you. I'll tolerate nothing that causes you pain. That's obsession, not protection. I never claimed to be sane about you. His forehead pressed against mine, his breath warm on my lips. From the moment I saw you, exhausted and invisible and so beautiful it hurt to look at you, I knew. You're mine, Emma Hartley, whether you've accepted it yet or not. I should have run. Should have called the police. Should have done anything except lean into him, my hands gripping his jacket like he was gravity and I was falling. This is crazy, I whispered. I know. His lips brushed mine, barely contact, everything contact. But you're here anyway. The kiss was different this time, deeper, hungrier. His tongue swept into my mouth like a conquest, claiming, possessing, making promises. His body pressed against mine. My back hit the terminal wall, his hands everywhere. My waist, my hair, my throat, touching like he needed to memorize every inch. Dante. His name was a gasp, a prayer, a surrender. Say it again. His mouth moved to my neck, teeth grazing sensitive skin. Say my name like that again. We're in public. I don't care. His hand slid under my jacket, palm flat against my spine, pulling me closer. Let them see. Let everyone know you're mine. Possession. Obsession. Madness. Every rational thought screamed warnings, but my body betrayed me, arching into his touch, craving more of whatever dangerous thing we were creating between us. His phone buzzed. Then again. Reality intruded like cold water. Dante pulled back with visible reluctance, his breathing harsh. He checked his phone, and his expression darkened immediately. I have to go. Business, urgent. Okay. I tried to steady my voice, my heartbeat, my sanity. Marco will drive you home. He gestured to one of his security detail. Stay inside today. Don't go anywhere alone. Alarm flared. Why? What's wrong? Nothing you need to worry about. Just... He pulled me close again, his lips pressing against my forehead with desperate intensity. Promise me. Stay safe today. For me. Dante, you're scaring me. Good. His eyes met mine, deadly serious. Fear keeps you careful. Careful keeps you alive. Promise me, Emma. I promise. He left in a different SUV, black, bulletproof, surrounded by even more security than usual. I watched until the vehicle disappeared, a knot of dread tightening in my stomach. Marco, the driver, was a mountain of a man with kind eyes. Come on, Miss Hartley. Let's get you home. The drive passed in silence, my mind spun with questions, fears, the ghost of Dante's touch still burning on my skin. When we reached my apartment building, Marco insisted on walking me to my door, checking inside before nodding approval. Lock everything. Don't open for anyone but Mr. Caruso or his men. You have his number? Yes. Use it if anything seems wrong, anything at all. His expression was grave. He'd never forgive himself if something happened to you. After Marco left, I locked the door and leaned against it, my apartment suddenly feeling like a cage instead of a sanctuary. The afternoon sun streamed through windows that needed washing. Dishes sat in the sink. Laundry overflowed the hamper. Normal life. Except nothing felt normal anymore. My phone rang. Dante's number lighting up the screen. Are you home? Locked in? No greeting, just immediate concern. Yes. Marco made sure, a breath of relief. Good. I'm sorry about this morning. About your ex. About... He paused. About everything I am and everything that comes with me. Don't apologize for protecting me. Even when it's excessive, obsessive, especially then. The words surprised me as much as they probably surprised him. Nobody's ever cared enough to be excessive. Silence stretched between us, heavy with meaning. Emma. His voice dropped lower, intimate despite the distance. I need you to understand something. My world is dangerous. People I've wronged want revenge. Rivals want leverage. And you're the perfect leverage, because hurting you would destroy me. Should I be hearing this? Yes. Because I won't lie to you, remember? You deserve to know what you're getting into. What I'm dragging you into just by wanting you. Maybe I want to be dragged. His sharp intake of breath was audible. Don't say things like that unless you mean them. I mean them. And I did. God help me, I did. I'm terrified. You're insane. This whole situation is impossible. But I stopped, unsure how to articulate the feeling growing in my chest like something alive and dangerous. But you feel it too. He finished the thought. This pull, this inevitability. Yes. Then trust me to keep you safe. Trust me to handle the darkness so you don't have to. Can you do that? I looked around my tiny apartment. Safe, familiar, suffocating. Thought about my life before Dante, invisible, exhausted, alone. Thought about my father's final words. Promise me you'll live, really live. I can try. That's all I ask. His voice softened. Get some sleep. I'll come by tonight after your shift. We need to talk about increasing your security. Dante. Not negotiable, Emma. Not anymore. Things are escalating. I'll explain tonight. He hung up before I could argue. I stared at my phone, at his name on the screen, at the reality of what I'd agreed to settling over me like a weighted blanket, comforting and suffocating simultaneously. Sleep came eventually, fitful and full of dreams where whiskey eyes watched me from shadows, where danger smelled like bergamot and cedar, where obsession felt dangerously like love. I woke to banging on my door, frantic, urgent, wrong. Emma! Emma, open up! It's Marge! My supervisor's voice, tight with panic. I stumbled to the door, checking the peephole. Marge stood there, her usually weathered face pale, her hands shaking. I unlocked the door. What's wrong? What? You need to come with me. Now. There's been an accident at the terminal. They're saying... She stopped, her eyes filling with tears. They're saying someone planted a bomb in the cleaning supply room, the one you usually work from. Emma, if you'd been there tonight. The world tilted. My knees buckled. Marge caught me, her cigarette-scented hands surprisingly strong. Who would... But I knew. I knew exactly who and why. My phone rang, Dante's number. I answered with shaking hands. Are you safe? His voice was ragged with barely controlled violence. Tell me you're safe. I'm home. I know. I know about the bomb. I'm 5 minutes away. Pack a bag. You're coming with me. No arguments. Dante, what's happening? War. The word was flat, final, terrifying. You're in the middle of a war you didn't ask for. And I'm going to end it, Emma. I'm going to burn everything to the ground before I let them touch you. The line went dead. Outside my window, I heard sirens growing closer. Marge stared at me with wide, frightened eyes. And somewhere in the city, a Mafia boss was coming to collect what he'd claimed as his, ready to paint the streets red to keep me safe. I had 1 month to decide if Dante Caruso was worth the risk. Apparently, someone else had decided to make that decision for me. Dante's SUV screeched to a halt outside my building exactly 4 minutes later. I watched from my window as he emerged, no longer the carefully controlled man who courted me over coffee. This version moved like violence incarnate, his security detail forming a protective barrier as he stormed toward the entrance. He didn't knock. The door flew open. He must have gotten a key from the landlord, or picked the lock, or simply willed it open through sheer force of fury. His eyes found me immediately, scanning for injuries with an intensity that stole my breath. You're okay. Not a question. A statement he needed to confirm with his own eyes. You're actually okay. I wasn't there. I was sleeping. Marge came to tell me. He crossed the room in 3 strides, pulling me against his chest with desperate strength. His heart hammered beneath my ear, his hands fisting in my hair like he needed to convince himself I was real. When I got the call, his voice was raw, broken in ways I'd never heard. When they told me there was an explosion at the terminal, in the cleaning area, all I could think was that I'd failed, that I'd let them hurt you, that I'd lost you before I ever really had you. Who's they? I pulled back enough to see his face. Who did this? His jaw clenched, fury and something darker flickering across his expression. The Volkov Bratva, Russian organization that's been trying to muscle into my territory for months. They must have been watching, saw me with you, decided you were the perfect target, terror crystallized in my veins. They tried to kill me to get to you. They tried to send a message. They failed. His hands cupped my face with devastating gentleness that contradicted the violence in his eyes. But they won't stop, Emma. Not now. Not until I make them regret ever learning your name. What are you going to do? What I should have done weeks ago. Eliminate the threat completely. He released me, pulling out his phone. Marco, status on the Volkov locations? Good. Mobilize everyone. I want this finished by dawn. Dante, wait. I grabbed his arm. You're talking about killing people, about starting a war. The war started the moment they put your life at risk. His eyes met mine, and I saw something terrible in their depths. Absolute conviction, zero remorse. I told you what I am, Emma. I'm not a good man. I don't negotiate with people who threaten what's mine. I erase them. The casual way he said it should have horrified me. Maybe it did. But beneath the horror was something else. A primitive satisfaction that someone cared enough to burn the world for my safety. You can't just... I can. I will. He turned to Marge, who'd been standing frozen by the door. You saw nothing tonight. You know nothing about Emma's whereabouts. If anyone asks, police, feds, other cleaners, she quit a week ago, moved away. You have no idea where. Understand? Marge nodded frantically. I never saw her. Never talked to her. Good. He pulled out a stack of bills, hundreds, probably $10,000, and pressed them into her shaking hands. For your silence and your trouble. If that changes, if you talk to anyone, the money will be the least of your regrets. The threat was delivered with such casual certainty that Marge blanched. She stuffed the money in her jacket and practically ran from the apartment. We were alone. The silence felt apocalyptic. Pack. Dante's voice shifted to command. Essentials only. Everything else I'll replace. We leave in 5 minutes. Where are we going? Somewhere safe. Somewhere they can't touch you while I handle this. He moved through my tiny apartment with predatory efficiency, already assessing, cataloging, dismissing most of my possessions as irrelevant. Do you have a passport? Yes, but bring it. Bring any documents you can't replace. Birth certificate, social security card. Photos you care about. Everything else is expendable. My hands shook as I grabbed a duffel bag, stuffing it with clothes that suddenly felt absurdly mundane. Jeans, t-shirts, underwear. How do you pack when your life is being dismantled by forces beyond your control? The photo album. Dante's voice softened slightly. He'd found my small album on the bookshelf. Pictures of my father, my childhood, the life before everything fell apart. This matters to you. Bring it. I took it with numb fingers, tucking it carefully into the bag. 5 minutes of packing to leave behind everything I knew. 5 minutes to step fully into Dante's world with no possibility of return. I'm scared. The admission escaped before I could stop it. He was there immediately, his hands on my shoulders, his forehead pressed to mine. I know. And I'm sorry. I'm so goddamn sorry that my life has infected yours, that my enemies became your enemies just because I couldn't stay away from you. Do you regret it? Meeting me? Never. The word was absolute. Even knowing it put you in danger, even knowing what's coming. I'd do it again. I'd do it 1,000 times, because you're mine, Emma, and I protect what's mine with everything I am. His phone buzzed. He checked it, his expression darkening further. They hit one of my warehouses, retaliation for me pulling you out. They're escalating. Because of me. Because they're idiots who think they can challenge me and survive. He grabbed my bag, slinging it over his shoulder. Come on. The longer we stay, the more risk. The hallway was eerily empty as we descended. Dante's security had already cleared the building, positioned at strategic points, weapons barely concealed. This was military precision, organized violence. The machine of his empire functioning with terrifying efficiency. The SUV waited, engine running, surrounded by 3 other identical vehicles. A convoy, an army mobilizing for war. Which one? I asked. Middle vehicle. The others are decoys in case they try to follow. He helped me inside, sliding in beside me. The door closed with a heavy thunk. Bulletproof, I realized. Armored. Built to withstand attacks. We pulled away from my building, from my old life, from everything familiar. I watched through tinted windows as my neighborhood disappeared, replaced by increasingly affluent streets, then highways, then roads I didn't recognize. Where are we actually going? I asked after 20 silent minutes. My estate outside the city, 40 acres, completely secured, state-of-the-art surveillance. Nothing gets in or out without my knowledge. He reached for my hand, his fingers interlacing with mine. You'll be safe there while I handle the Volkov situation. How long will that take? As long as necessary. His thumb traced circles on my palm. Could be days. Could be weeks. Depends on how quickly they accept their defeat. And if they don't accept it? His smile was all predator. Then they die slowly instead of quickly. The casual way he discussed murder should have repulsed me. Instead, I found myself squeezing his hand tighter, drawing comfort from his absolute certainty. He was a monster, but he was my monster, standing between me and other monsters who wanted me dead. The estate appeared through morning fog like something from a Gothic novel. Sprawling stone mansions surrounded by walls that looked decorative, but were clearly defensive. Guards patrolled the perimeter, cameras dotted every angle. This wasn't just a home, it was a fortress. Welcome, Dante said softly, to the only place in the world where you're completely untouchable. Inside, the house was as opulent as I remembered from the solarium breakfast. But now I noticed details I'd missed. Panic rooms disguised as closets, security monitors hidden in artwork, the subtle bulges under servants' jackets that suggested weapons. Everyone here was armed. Everyone here was ready for war. Teresa will show you to your room. Dante gestured to the severe woman who'd served us breakfast before. Rest, eat, do whatever you need. I have to go handle business. Wait. I caught his arm before he could leave. When will you be back? Something flickered across his face. Surprise that I cared, maybe, or satisfaction. Late tonight, maybe tomorrow morning. Depends on how the meetings go. Meetings. I tried not to picture what his meetings actually entailed. Right. He pulled me close, his kiss fierce and claiming, tasting like desperation and ownership. Don't leave the estate. Don't trust anyone except Teresa and Marco. And Emma? His eyes burned into mine. If something happens to me, if I don't come back, there's a safe in the master bedroom. Combination is your birthday. Inside is everything you need. New identity, money, contacts who can get you out of the country. Promise me if it comes to that, you'll run and never look back. Terror seized my throat. Nothing's going to happen to you. Probably not. But I plan for every contingency. His hand cupped my cheek. Promise me. I promise. Another kiss? Briefer. Then he was gone, striding out with his security detail, leaving me alone in a mansion that felt more like a beautiful prison than sanctuary. Teresa cleared her throat. Your room is this way, Miss Hartley. Would you like lunch sent up? I followed her through hallways that whispered wealth and danger, up a sweeping staircase, down a corridor lined with paintings whose subjects seemed to watch with knowing eyes. The room she led me to was larger than my entire apartment. King bed with silk sheets, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking manicured gardens, a bathroom with a tub that could fit 3 people. Mr. Caruso had your size sent over this morning. Teresa gestured to a walk-in closet now filled with clothes bearing designer labels I'd only seen in magazines. Everything should fit. If you need alterations, let me know. He did all this in 4 hours? Mr. Caruso is very efficient when motivated. Her expression softened fractionally. He cares for you. I've never seen him like this about anyone. You've known him long? Since he was a boy. I raised him after his parents died. She moved to the windows, adjusting curtains. He's dangerous, Miss Hartley, violent, capable of terrible things, but he's also fiercely loyal to those he loves. If you're under his protection, you're safer than you'd be anywhere else in this world. And if I'm the reason he gets hurt, then you'll understand exactly what it means to be loved by a man like Dante Caruso. She headed for the door, pausing at the threshold. Lunch in an hour. Don't try to leave the estate. The guards have orders to keep you here. Gently if possible. The door closed with a soft click, leaving me alone in luxurious captivity. I explored the room like a prisoner mapping their cell, tested the windows, locked, checked the bathroom, obscenely opulent, examined the closet, clothes in exactly my size, which should have been romantic but felt like surveillance. My phone sat on the bedside table, deliberately placed by someone. When I picked it up, I found only one contact remaining. Dante. He'd erased everything else, my old life, my contacts, anything that could tie me to the person I used to be, protecting me or controlling me. Maybe both. Maybe there was no difference anymore. Hours crawled past. Lunch arrived on a silver tray, food I couldn't taste. Afternoon faded to evening. I tried on clothes that fit perfectly. Each garment a reminder that Dante knew my body better than I'd realized. Had he watched me that carefully, measured me with his eyes during those breakfast conversations? Night fell. Still no word. I stood at the window, watching security patrols cross the grounds with military precision, and tried not to imagine what Dante was doing, tried not to picture blood on his hands, bodies falling, the violence he wielded so casually in my defense. My phone rang at midnight. Dante's name lit up the screen. Are you safe? I answered immediately. His laugh was dark, exhausted. Worried about me, sweetheart? Don't call me that when I can hear gunfire in the background. Just firecrackers. Celebratory. But I heard the lie in his voice, heard the strain. The Volkov leadership is negotiating. It's going well. You're hurt. Silence. Then, how do you know? I can hear it in your voice. How bad? Nothing that won't heal. More gunfire. Closer this time. Shouting in Russian. I have to go. Just wanted to hear your voice. Wanted to remember why I'm doing this. Dante, lock your door tonight. Keep your phone close. And Emma? His voice dropped to something raw and honest. I'm coming back to you. Whatever it takes, whoever I have to kill, I'm coming back. The line went dead. I stood there in the darkness, phone clutched in shaking hands, and finally admitted the truth I'd been avoiding since that first night in the terminal. I was falling in love with a monster. And the most terrifying part was that I didn't want to stop. Dawn broke over the estate in shades of gold and crimson, beautiful and ominous, like blood diluted in honey. I hadn't slept, had spent the night pacing my gilded cage, jumping at every sound, imagining worst-case scenarios with vivid clarity. The door opened without warning. I spun around, heart hammering. Dante stood in the doorway, and my breath caught. His suit was ruined, blood spatters across the white shirt, jacket torn at the shoulder, a cut above his eyebrow that had stopped bleeding, but looked vicious. His eyes were hollowed with exhaustion, and something darker, the aftermath of violence, the residue of things he'd done and couldn't undo. "You're alive," the words tumbled out, relief and fury tangled together. "I'm alive." He stepped inside, closing the door. The Volkov Bratva is no longer a concern. Their leadership is dead. Their organization is scattered. You're safe, Emma. Completely safe. You killed them. Not a question. I erased them. He said it without remorse, without apology. Every single person who knew your name, who might have seen your face, who could have posed a threat, they don't exist anymore. I should have been horrified, should have run screaming. Instead, I crossed the room and wrapped my arms around him, holding tight despite the blood, despite everything. "You're insane," I whispered against his chest. "I know." His arms came around me, crushing me close. "But I'm yours, and you're mine, and anyone who tries to change that ends up like the Volkovs." He kissed me then, desperate and claiming, tasting like violence and devotion. His hands roamed my body like he needed to confirm I was real, whole, his. I kissed him back with equal desperation, pouring every complicated emotion into the contact. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against mine. "I love you," he said simply. "I know it's too soon. I know I'm too much. But I love you, Emma Hartley, and I need you to decide. Are you mine? Completely? Or do I let you go before I drag you deeper into the darkness?" I looked into those whiskey eyes that had seen me from the first moment, that had made me visible when the world looked through me. Thought about my father's dying words about living, really living. Thought about the choice before me, safety in invisibility or danger in being seen, cherished, possessed by someone who would burn the world to keep me safe. "I'm yours," I whispered. "God help me, I'm completely yours." His smile was triumphant, possessive, absolutely devastating. "Then let me show you exactly what that means." Bloco 5, Final. 3 months later, I stood in front of floor-to-ceiling windows in what had become our bedroom, no longer just Dante's, but ours, watching spring transform the estate gardens into something impossibly beautiful. Cherry blossoms drifted like pink snow. Fountains sparkled in morning light. The world outside these walls continued spinning, but inside, time moved differently. I'd stopped working at the airport the night of the bombing, stopped pretending I could maintain my old life while living in Dante's world. The transition hadn't been easy. I'd fought him on it, insisted I needed independence, needed to feel like more than just his protected possession. "Then go back to school," he'd said simply, pulling up university websites on his laptop. "Finish your degree, become the teacher you wanted to be, but do it without exhausting yourself, without choosing between dreams and survival." So I had. I was enrolled at the state university, taking education classes, rediscovering the person I'd buried under years of mere survival. Dante had been right. Freedom from financial desperation allowed me to actually live instead of just exist. But it hadn't all been easy adjustments and romantic gestures. The nightmares came first, vivid dreams of bombs, of men with guns, of Dante not coming back from one of his business trips. I'd wake screaming, and he'd be there immediately, pulling me against his chest, whispering promises in Italian I didn't understand but felt in my bones. "I've got you," he'd murmur into my hair. "Always. Nothing's taking you from me." Then came the reality of his world seeping into mine. The armed guards who followed me to campus. the background checks on every friend I made, the way people looked at me once they realized who I belonged to. Fear, respect, calculation. They're using you. I'd accused Dante after a study group invitation turned out to be someone's daughter trying to get her father's gambling debts forgiven. Everyone wants something from you through me. His expression had darkened dangerously. Then I'll make it clear that using you has consequences. Permanent ones. You can't threaten everyone who talks to me. Watch me. We'd fought about it. Spectacular, volatile arguments where my frustration collided with his obsessive protectiveness. He'd accused me of being naive about human nature. I'd accused him of being paranoid and controlling. Both of us were right. Both of us were impossible, but we always came back together, always ended up tangled in each other. His hands in my hair, his mouth on mine, whispering apologies and promises and dark, possessive words that shouldn't have made me melt, but absolutely did. You're mine, he'd growl against my throat. Every breath, every heartbeat, every thought in that beautiful head. Mine. Say it. Yours, I'd gasp. Always yours. The possessiveness should have suffocated me. Instead, it made me feel treasured in ways I'd never imagined possible. Dante didn't just want me, he needed me with an intensity that bordered on addiction, and I was honest enough to admit I needed him just as desperately. My phone buzzed on the dresser, Dante's name lighting up the screen. He'd left early this morning for meetings I didn't ask about, wearing a suit that cost more than most cars, and an expression that promised violence to someone. "Hey," I answered, unable to keep the smile from my voice. "How's my girl?" The rough affection in his tone never failed to make my stomach flip. "Your girl is trying to write a lesson plan and getting distracted by the obscene luxury you insist on surrounding her with." His laugh was dark and satisfied. "Good. You should be distracted by thoughts of me. I'm certainly distracted by thoughts of you." Dante. Warning and invitation tangled in his name. "I'll be home by noon. Wear the green dress. We're going out." "Where? You'll see. Trust me?" I looked around our bedroom, at the life we'd built from violence and obsession and something that had grown into genuine, terrifying love. Always. "That's my girl." He paused, and I heard voices in the background, tension creeping into his tone. "I have to go. Stay on the estate today. Marco and Teresa are there if you need anything." "Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine. Just some loose ends to handle." The lie was smooth, practiced. "I love you, Emma. I love you too." The call ended, leaving me staring at my phone with familiar unease. Loose ends in Dante's vocabulary usually meant something violent, something he shielded me from but couldn't entirely hide. I'd learned to read the signs, the tension in his shoulders when he returned home, the blood he thought he'd washed away but lingered under his fingernails, the darkness in his eyes that took hours of holding me to fade. I was in love with a monster, but he was my monster, and I'd stopped trying to reconcile that contradiction. The morning passed slowly. I worked on my lesson plan, teaching methods for elementary students, innocent and normal and surreal given my current reality. Teresa brought lunch on a silver tray, her expression unreadable. "Mr. Caruso called. He'll be delayed. Dinner instead of lunch." Something in her tone made my spine straighten. "Is he in danger?" "Mr. Caruso is always in some danger, Miss Hartley. It's the nature of his position." She set down the tray with precise movements. "But he's also very good at surviving. 20 years in this life, and he's never lost a fight that mattered." "What about fights that didn't matter?" Her expression softened fractionally. "Those he walked away from. For you. He's changed since you came into his life. Softer in some ways, more dangerous in others." "How can he be both?" "Because now he has something worth protecting beyond his empire. You make him vulnerable, Miss Hartley. And a vulnerable Dante Caruso is far more lethal than an invincible one." She left before I could process that, leaving me alone with lunch I couldn't eat and thoughts that spiraled into worry. Hours crawled past. I tried reading. A thriller novel that felt absurdly tame compared to my actual life. Tried studying. Tried not checking my phone every 30 seconds for updates that didn't come. 4 o'clock became 5. 5 became 6. Still no word. At 7, I called him. The phone rang once before going to voicemail. Disconnected or declined, my stomach dropped. Marco! I found Dante's head of security in the kitchen, talking quietly with 2 other guards. Have you heard from Dante? His expression was carefully neutral. Not in the past hour, Miss Hartley. But that's not unusual during negotiations. What negotiations? What's really happening? I can't discuss Mr. Caruso's business with you. His orders. Frustration burned hot. I'm not some child to be protected from reality. If he's in danger, if Mr. Caruso is in danger, there's nothing you can do except wait here where he knows you're safe. Marco's voice gentled slightly. That's the hardest part about loving a man like him, Miss Hartley. Learning to trust that he'll come back. I wanted to scream. Wanted to demand answers. Wanted to storm out and find Dante myself. But I was trapped. By his protection. By my own helplessness in his violent world. By the terrible understanding that my presence might make things worse instead of better. So I waited. Paced the bedroom until my feet ached. Watched the sun set in colors that reminded me of blood and fire. Tried not to imagine worst-case scenarios that played like horror movies behind my eyes. At 9:30, I heard vehicles on the drive. Multiple engines. Urgent movements. My heart hammered as I ran to the window. 3 SUVs pulled up to the entrance, and my breath stopped entirely. Dante emerged from the middle vehicle. Alive, upright, but clearly injured. His left arm hung at an odd angle. Blood soaked through his shirt. His face was a mask of controlled pain and fury. Marco and 2 other men supported him as he climbed the front steps, moving with the careful precision of someone holding themselves together through sheer will. I flew down the stairs, taking them 2 at a time, terror and relief warring in my chest. Teresa tried to stop me at the bottom, but I pushed past her, bursting into the foyer just as they were helping Dante through the door. Oh my God. The words came out strangled. His head snapped up, those whiskey eyes finding me immediately. Despite the pain, despite the blood, his expression softened. I'm okay. It looks worse than it is. You're covered in blood. Most of it's not mine. He tried to smile, failed. Emma, I need you to go upstairs. Absolutely not. I was at his side before anyone could stop me, my hands hovering over him, terrified to touch and cause more pain. What happened? Ambush. Remnants of the Volkov organization seeking revenge. His jaw clenched as Marco helped him toward the study. They're dealt with. Permanently. But I took a bullet to the shoulder and my arm's broken. You need a hospital. I have a doctor coming here. Hospitals ask questions. He let them guide him to a leather sofa, his face going gray with pain as they lowered him down. Emma, please. I need you to not look at me like that. Like what? Like you're watching me die. His good hand reached for mine, grip surprisingly strong. I'm not dying. I've survived much worse. That's not comforting. The doctor arrived within minutes, a severe woman who clearly knew Dante well and had no patience for emotional scenes. She ordered everyone out except Marco, but I planted my feet and refused to budge. I'm staying. Dante's expression was unreadable. Emma, I'm staying. Each word came out sharp, brooking no argument. You don't get to shut me out of this part. If I'm yours, if this is my life now, then I'm here. For all of it. Something shifted in his gaze. Surprise, pride, possession. All right. But it's not going to be pretty. He was right. Watching the doctor dig the bullet from his shoulder, listening to his sharp intakes of breath that were the only indication of pain, seeing the damage close up, it was horrific. But I held his good hand through all of it, grounding him, refusing to look away even when everything in me wanted to run. You're stronger than I gave you credit for, he said afterward, voice rough from pain, and probably the whiskey they'd given him for it. His shoulder was bandaged, arm set in a cast, bruises already blooming across his ribs. Most people can't watch that without fainting. Most people aren't in love with someone who gets shot at regularly. I sat beside him carefully, mindful of his injuries. This is what you meant, isn't it? When you said your world was dangerous? Yes. No deflection. No softening of the truth. This is my reality, Emma. Violence, retaliation, constant vigilance. I can protect you from most of it. but I can't promise you'll never see me like this again." "Then don't promise." I took his good hand in both of mine. "I don't need false promises. I need honesty. I need to know when you're in danger so I'm not blindsided. I need to be your partner, not your protected princess in a tower." His thumb traced circles on my palm. "If I tell you everything, you'll worry constantly. I already worry constantly. At least if I know, the worry won't come with lies." He studied me for a long moment, those whiskey eyes seeing everything as always. Finally he nodded. "All right. Partnership. Honesty. But Emma," his grip tightened, "you have to understand that some things I do, you won't be able to accept. Some choices I make will horrify you. Can you live with loving someone whose hands are perpetually covered in blood?" I thought about the past 3 months, about learning to sleep beside a man who woke with nightmares about his own childhood trauma, his parents' murder, the violence he'd both suffered and inflicted, about accepting that the same hands that held me with devastating tenderness had also killed without hesitation, about reconciling the Dante who brought me coffee exactly how I liked it, with the Dante who'd erased an entire criminal organization to keep me safe. "I already do," I said softly. "I love you exactly as you are. Monster and man, violence and devotion, all of it." His expression cracked, vulnerability bleeding through the controlled facade. "I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you're stuck with me anyway." He pulled me closer with his good arm, mindful of his injuries, and kissed me with something that felt like reverence. Like I was salvation he didn't deserve but couldn't release. "Marry me," he whispered against my lips. The world stopped. "What?" "Marry me, Emma Hartley. Not because I'm trying to possess you, though God knows I want to. Not because it makes sense or follows any reasonable timeline, but because tonight, bleeding and broken, the only thing I could think about was getting back to you. You're my home, my reason, my everything. So marry me, and let me spend the rest of my life proving I'm worth the risk." Tears burned hot. "That's not a proposal. That's manipulation through emotional vulnerability. It's the truth." His forehead pressed to mine. "Say yes, or tell me no, and I'll ask again tomorrow, and every day after until you say yes, because I'm nothing if not persistent when I want something." "You're insane. Say yes anyway." I looked into those eyes that had seen me from the very first moment, thought about my father's dying wish for me to really live, thought about the choice before me, safe invisibility or dangerous visibility, comfortable loneliness or terrifying love. "Yes," I whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you, you obsessive, overprotective, impossible man." His smile could have lit the darkness. "I need to get you a ring, something obscene and beautiful. Something everyone sees and knows you're mine. But I need to give it to you." His hand cupped my face. "I need everyone to know that Emma Hartley belongs to Dante Caruso. That she chose the monster. That she's untouchable because hurting her means facing something worse than death. You really are a caveman. I prefer traditional." His thumb brushed across my lower lip. "But yes, you make me primitive, possessive, desperate to mark you as mine in every possible way." We sat there in the aftermath of violence and proposal, his blood seeping through bandages, my tears dampening his shirt. And somehow it felt perfect. This wasn't a fairy tale. This was real, messy, and dangerous, and absolutely true. The next few weeks blurred together. Dante recovered with stubborn speed, refusing to be slowed by injury. The ring appeared 3 days after his proposal, a diamond so large it seemed obscene, set in platinum with smaller stones that caught light like captured stars. He slid it on my finger with reverent intensity, sealing the promise we'd made. Planning a wedding when your fiancé was a Mafia boss proved complex. Guest lists had to be vetted, venues needed security clearances. Every detail was scrutinized for potential threats. But Dante insisted on something beautiful for me, something that felt like celebration rather than paranoia. "You deserve joy," he'd said, reviewing security plans with Marco. Real joy. Not just safety masquerading as happiness. We married 6 weeks later in the estate gardens, surrounded by cherry blossoms and armed guards hidden among the trees. The ceremony was small. Teresa stood as my witness, Marco as Dante's. A judge who owed Dante favors officiated. I wore a dress that cost more than my old car, and Dante wore a suit that made him look like sin wrapped in expensive fabric. When he slid the wedding band on my finger, platinum to match the engagement ring, his eyes held everything we'd become. Violence and devotion, possession and partnership, love that defied every reasonable boundary. Mine, he whispered as the judge pronounced us married. Yours, I agreed, always. The reception was larger. Family members from Dante's organization, business associates, people whose hands were as bloody as his. They looked at me with curiosity, respect, calculation. I was no longer invisible Emma Hartley, cleaning lady. I was Emma Caruso, wife of one of the city's most dangerous men. How does it feel? Teresa asked during dinner, her severe expression softer than usual. Being visible? I looked across the table at Dante. My husband now, legally and irrevocably mine, and saw him watching me with that familiar intensity that still made my breath catch. Terrifying, I admitted, but real. For the first time in years, I feel completely, dangerously real. Night fell over the estate, transforming the reception into something magical. Lights twinkled in trees, music played. Dante pulled me onto the makeshift dance floor, his arms wrapping around me like I was precious and breakable and infinitely strong all at once. Thank you, he murmured into my hair as we swayed. For what? For seeing me, for choosing me, for loving the monster under the man. His hand tightened on my waist. I know this isn't the life you planned. I know I dragged you into darkness. You gave me light. I interrupted. You made me visible when the world looked through me. You saw worth where I'd stopped seeing anything. Yes, your world is dangerous. Yes, loving you means living with fear. But it also means living, really living, instead of just surviving. His kiss tasted like promise and possession and home. We danced until stars scattered across the sky like diamonds, until guests departed, until only us remained in gardens that smelled of cherry blossoms and new beginnings. Later, in our bedroom, truly ours now, Dante laid me on silk sheets with devastating gentleness. His hands roamed my body with reverent possession, mapping every curve, claiming every inch. When he finally made love to me as husband to wife, it felt like sealing something sacred and profane all at once. I love you, he whispered against my throat, my shoulder, my lips, obsessively, completely, forever. I love you, I gasped, nails digging into his shoulders. My monster. My home. Afterward, we lay tangled together. His hand splayed possessively over my stomach. My head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat steady and strong. I never thought I'd have this, he admitted into the darkness. Love, partnership, someone who knows what I am and loves me anyway. I never thought I'd be seen, I countered. Really seen, not just noticed. You gave me that. We gave each other that. His arms tightened. You're my salvation, Emma Caruso. The light in my darkness. The reason I'll keep fighting, keep surviving, keep being the monster when necessary. Because I have something worth protecting that's worth any sin. I smiled against his chest, feeling the rightness of it settle into my bones. This wasn't a fairy tale. This was better. Real and complicated and absolutely true. 6 months into marriage, I stood at the same windows where this part of my story had begun, watching gardens bloom with summer color. My hand rested on the subtle swell of my stomach. 3 months pregnant, carrying the future we were building from violence and devotion. Dante appeared behind me, his arms wrapping around me, hands covering mine over our growing child. What are you thinking about? He asked softly. That night in the terminal, when you dropped your pen and looked at me like I was something rare instead of invisible. I leaned back into his warmth. If someone had told me that moment would lead here, to you, to this life, to us, I never would have believed them. Would you have run if you'd known? I thought about it honestly, about the violence and danger and obsessive possession, about the love and security and finally being seen. No, I said finally. I'd have stayed. Because you're worth every risk, Dante Caruso. You always were. His lips found my temple, my cheek. my lips, soft kisses that promised forever. Outside, the world continued spinning. Dangers lurked, enemies plotted, darkness existed in corners and shadows. But here, in our fortress made of stone and love and absolute certainty, we were untouchable. I was no longer invisible Emma Hartley, drowning in survival. I was Emma Caruso, seen, loved, possessed by a man who would burn the world to keep me safe, and I wouldn't have it any other way.